All right. Welcome back, guys, to the Talkaholics podcast. This is Iman.
And I'm Razia.
And new setup,
Woo!
new year, new setup. I'm excited. I'm excited about the setup.
I know. I don't know how you feel about it. Maybe because it's my own place. It's like cozy.
It is cozy.
Yeah, we have sunlight that actually can come through. We're not on the floor. So
Like we usually are.
We're just talking about height disparity.
Yeah, you can tell that I'm quite shorter than Razia now. That's fine.
But we are excited to talk about something new that also begun this year.
Yeah.
Talkaholic Studios is not only a podcast, but now we host a book club.
Woo!
Iman, take it away. What's this about?
So, well, I mean, if you watched our last episode, you would have heard that we started a book club called Bookaholics, name. But anyway, so we started a book club called Bookaholics, and we had our first book club in January, and we read Light in Gaza, Writings Born of Fire. I believe that's the title. And we had a really good turnout. I think there was like 10 of us in total. And I was kind of shocked by by the response of like how many people wanted to join us.
Yeah.
And also the fact that usually when you start things, like even when we started Talkaholics, like a lot of the times the people who come out and support are the people you know.
Yeah.
But this time there was quite a few people that we did not know, that they just found our book club and they joined us.
Yeah, honestly, and like for context, like we started Bookaholics like for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons was to meet more girls within the city or more people within the GTA. And like for us, yeah, like there were certainly some familiar faces, but like for us to do one or two IG posts and never really have experience hosting, as I have.
No, I've never done it.
Never having hosted book clubs before, and then kind of just using Talkaholics as an outlet, and like it was a great idea. Mon pitched it, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like I giving excuse to read books, and then also meet people, and then the cafes.
Yeah. It's like check.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of reasons to like really enjoy it, and the both of us, I think we showed up to the cafe day, and then like I think it hit us that this was really happening, and people were here and were waiting for us.
Yeah.
And were ordering food, and then had their books on them, and I was like, whoa. Like, it kind of... I know the both of us had an aha moment of, like, holy shit. Like, we're so used to planning and, like, I guess, executing in front of a camera and editing, and it's very, like, an isolated process between us.
Yeah. We don't really engage with other people through this,
Yeah.
And, like, that was the first time we got to do that, and that was super cool.
Yeah. So, like, I want to thank everybody who showed up and came out. They were all really, like, everybody participated. Everybody had something to say.
Yeah, great conversation.
Yeah, and for, like, I mean, we started off with, like a heavier topic, but I think, like, even everybody had, like, was, like, really passionate about it, was really there for a reason. And we were really happy to have that space to talk about, a situation that, like, is like disheartening, but like it's important to have community situations like
Absolutely,
this.
yeah.
So no, like we're really excited. But speaking of,
yes, I mean the first one was so great. And can I say before we talk about the second one is like we posted a TikTok after, and then like an Instagram Reels, whatever, after of just like a compilation saying like, oh, we had this book club and it was so fun. And the response, like I didn't realize how much people wanted like something like this. You know what I mean? Like I thought, and you know what's it's interesting because after I was like, when I was like, oh, we should do a book club, and like I was doing research to see like what other book clubs in Toronto are happening, like what are they doing, how can we do that, but like also make it something that's that fits our what we want as well. And there aren't a lot of book clubs in Toronto. There are not, and as Muslim girlies, a lot of the book clubs that I found were like paired with like bars or alcohol, and it was like, let's go meet at the bar and have like some, I don't know, a drink and talk about a book. Exactly. And so like, I mean, again, you can definitely do that and not drink, like, but having like a space where people feel safe to just come out and talk about a book, I thought that was really important. So, and it's, some people are looking for that because we got so many responses like, oh, can we join or whatever, and I'm like, everybody's welcome to join. Also, so we launched our second club date, and we put out the registration link, and in what, like a couple of hours?
No,
not
actually,
even.
it was 3. Sorry,
3 hours. Yeah. We were sold out, and like it's a free event, but like like it was fully booked, and of course like it's because we also have we had to choose a small number because there's only so many cafes that allow us to have larger groups coming in
without us having to like pay.
Exactly. And we want to make sure that this is a, you know, an event where low barrier. We don't want people to have a barrier to come. So yeah, I think it was like limited to 15 people, and it's like in a couple of hours, boom, done. I
was shocked, but I also think to your point, like, because there's not so many other options, and like I guess we're like a familiar face to some. Maybe people have seen us through TikToks and have like seen clips of us, so they know who we are and what we're like and what our content is like. But I also think it just addresses that. Like, I think we talked about a different podcast of like there's no really third place. And for a lot of people living in the GTA, or like general people who live in cities, to like go out that doesn't involve you paying a whole bunch of money for dinner, or like, do you know what I'm saying? Doesn't cost you a bunch. So
I step outside my house, I pay $100. Like.
Exactly. So I'm really happy about that, and I also think it incorporates like other stuff from like early days of Talkaholics, where we did a lot of game show typey stuff. Yeah, and we've been doing reviews, so it's like a really nice way of like bring that in. So if you want to show up, please do. Like we mentioned, we have like really fun icebreakers. Like, it's all really meant to like bring people together and socialize.
Network, meet new people, but also talk about really cool books, you know? Like.
Exactly. It gives you a reason to like, check off a book that you have like yet to read. And we do a voting system, so like.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you want to read the book that we're talking about. So like this time around. So again, we're doing it. Actually, this is gonna come out after the book club, but we're doing it February 24th, right?
Yes.
So this Saturday. And so we were like, February, you know, Valentine's Day, love month, so we were like, okay, let's do like something, books about love or romance, whatever. And so we picked 4 books this time. Last time we only did 2, but we were like, okay, we need to give people more options.
We heard that feedback too during our first book club, that people were like, more options. But we were like, okay, we did 4.
Yeah.
They were around the topic of love and also Black History Month. So like,
they're Black authors,
which is great. So
and then so we had 4 options, and the people were fighting. Like, people were really fighting for their books. They were like, no, I want to read this. And I think in the last, like, so obviously we put on Instagram stories, and stories are only there for 24 hours. At like 23 hours, there was one book that was clearly winning.
Yeah.
And then within the hour, people fought for a specific book, and they were like, no, this book is going to be the one that we're going to read.
Yeah.
And so this book, All About Love, is the one that won by Bell Hooks. And I mean, I'm sure this is a timeless piece. Like, this has been on people's radars for years. Like, there are people who have read this. Razia, you've read this before. Like, this is my first time reading it, but people really wanted to read this book, and so this is the book that won out. This is the book that the public chose in the polls. And so this is the book we're going to be talking about, and we thought it would be cool where we had an episode that kind of followed the book club, talking about our thoughts about the book already, and then we're going to do it again on Saturday. Exactly. But we wanted to kind of give a review of what we thought, and then maybe we can have a discussion in the comments, or you guys can DM us if you've read the book, and if you agree with us, don't agree with us, what were your favorite parts about the book.
And let us know too, like, if you've read this book, or you have been following us along, you know, seeing what book has been voted for, and you were able to make it up to the book club, or weren't able to register, because we even got messages shortly after things got booked up, but we can't accommodate for everyone, unfortunately. So we kind of also had the idea of reviewing this on our podcast, also because, like, if you can't make it or don't live in the GTA and want to participate, please engage with us. Like, drop in the comments your thoughts and drop your own review, and like, it could be cool to have sort of an online portion of this community.
And maybe in the future, if we have people who are like, who again don't live in the GTA, want to be part of the book club, maybe we can have live discussions or something.
That's what I mean.
That would be cool. Exactly. Like, have people on Zoom, whatever it may be, and have live discussions about the books, and then have our in-person one as well. That'd be fun.
But that content, you tell us, please. If you're also reading along, that would be really good.
Also, like Razia mentioned, we are limited in the amount of people we can have, because again, we want to make sure that we have free events and things like that. If you're in the GTA and you know event spaces, like large event spaces that, you know, they want to rent it out for free to us or at a very low cost, so that we can have larger groups, let us know. Yeah. We're all more than happy to have a space that can accommodate bigger groups so that we can have more people join us. But right now we're limited to what's available.
We're kind of going through a system of rotating between basically Scarborough Markham ends, downtown, and then Saga ends. So like, please, like, we were kind of really flexible when it comes to like location. Yeah. So yeah, if there's a place that we can kind of consider our home spot that is like, you know, we're not again charging for tickets at the moment, so like something that would be accessible for us to like book and reserve and would accommodate for a lot of people and would be kind of private. We kind of look for semi-private spaces. Yeah. Because we're talking about a book.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, Razia, I'm gonna start with you because I know you've read this book before, and so you're rereading it now. Yeah. So thoughts? What are your thoughts? I want to hear them.
I really love this book. I want to say that I was surprised that this got chosen considering the other options during our voting phase when it was on our story. Not because I don't think that people love this. It's a very popular book, probably the most popular out of the choices, but it's because we had just followed up with a nonfiction book, going into another nonfiction book. Arguably, it's also a self-help book, so it doesn't really follow a narrative or a storyline. So I was really banking on one of the rom-com-y ones to win. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool that to me tells me that people still want to read this and also are craving to talk about topics like this. Like when you pick a book for a book club, that means you kind of want the discussion to be about that, right? Yeah. So that's really refreshing. And the first time I read this, I will say, like, I feel like I did a more Spark Notes version of it, where I was really looking, like, for me, I was really looking to read this for, like, the self-help aspect of this book. So I was going through quotes, I was, like, journaling about this. So I really appreciated this book for what it did for me at that time. So, this has a special place in my heart. But coming to it again and reading it, the book club gave me an excuse to buy the physical copy. Nice. Because I read it as a PDF the first time. I really enjoyed it. I think this time I'm in a much different space in my life reading it. So, like, the context is really interesting to see, like, what is more relevant to me now. Mm-hmm. I think Bell Hooks is incredible about talking about love in a way that is practical, which I feel like, to her point, like, society's craving, right? Because like the topic about love is really floaty, is really based in movies, and movies being our own example is like has its own issues, and I feel like she's coming from a space that's really inclusive, and it like addresses love as a topic that we can all appreciate and doesn't approach it with shame. Like, she talks about issues that women face, that men face, within relationships, within the context of friendships. Like, it's love in its like fullest sense, within spirituality. So it's a really cool book that, like, no matter where you are in your life, like, there's definitely some chapters that speak more to you than others. I don't know, I just think I like her logical approach, and like her giving a definition to love is like also really ambitious, but is like something that, like, beyond someone saying it's just something you feel and you're ready for. Yeah. It puts responsibility back in the hands of someone who is like, whether it's a relationship or friendship or whatever, or like a family dynamic. It comes back to, like, no, we all have like a part to play in this, and it's like a lot more serious. And my last few thoughts, I just think, like, this book is really interesting because it starts with a dedication to her current lover, as far as like when she released this book. It was like in the 2000s, I think. But then she goes on to say, like, kind of her reason for talking and thinking about love is because of her divorce from a marriage of 15 years. And the cool thing is that the tone of this entire book does not feel like this is a woman that's carrying grudges or like weight or grief in like a negative sense from that experience. Like, for her to come out of that wanting to write this and sounding as hopeful as she does and as passionate, I think is like a really cool testament. Like, she's the right person to write this. It's just hard to find that. I just think, like, a hopeful view of love that, like, kind of everyone can do is kind of her motto.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was great, girl. That was a great summary. Thank you. That was great. So, like, I haven't read the entire book yet. I'm still making my way through.
I have a final few chapters,
life caught up to me. But I'm enjoying it so far. I agree. I think that, and I say this, I even said this in the last book club, I am not a nonfiction book reader. Like I'm fiction all the way. And I was also surprised that one of the fiction books in our poll didn't win out.
Yeah.
But again, it's great because it is forcing me to read things that I wouldn't normally read. Yeah. And I will tell you, All About Love has been on my TBR for ages. I'm like, I'm always gonna read. And I actually picked up this book prior. Like this was in my library at home for months. I had started the first chapter and like it was a really slow read for me. And then when we picked it for the book club, I was like, hey, man. Yeah. You gotta get on this. And I started reading it, and I'm really enjoying it. It is still, again, slow. It's hard for me to get through because maybe it's ADHD. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe it's Maybelline. But but it takes me some time to get through non-fiction books.
That's for sure.
But anyways, regardless of that, like I have to take it piece by piece. I'm still really enjoying it. And I like, at least for the most I've read so far, I do like the fact that she is focusing on different aspects of love. And it's not only the romantic love that she talks about, but when she talks about people craving love, like as humans, we crave love. It's not only from a romantic partner. It's from our families. It's from our friends. It's from like, and the different ways people can love. And the different ways we learn how to love based off of generational trauma and like all this stuff. And it really, really spoke to me, especially the beginning chapters about family and how you're taught to love. I think that was really interesting. I was like, I feel that. I feel that a lot. But I think I really enjoyed it. And I like the way that, I really like the way Bell Hooks writes. And I did my undergrad in communication studies, and the first time I read anything from Bell Hooks was actually in one of my classes. And it was an advertising, like marketing class, looking at the way advertising like portrays society, like relays different stereotypes and So I had to read a chapter called Eating the Other, and it was by Bell Hooks, and it was talking about how specifically the advertising industry sexualizes Black women, and it's all about like the viewer eating, like literally consuming Black women's bodies. And I found her chapter so powerful, and I really like the way she writes. And so same thing with this book, like she has a way of writing, even though it's fiction, and like you said, there's not really a storyline. The way she weaves in her personal like anecdotes in her life, it kind of reads like a story while still like hitting these important points. And I don't know, I'm really enjoying it so far. I still have quite a bit to read, so I can't review the entire thing yet. But I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah. One of the things that are the reasons like why I like this book, and I'll go into like also my criticisms of it, because I feel like I like looking at it differently now this second time through, is that like it just goes to show like the importance of POC writers, because this book, I actually found it way long ago. I was looking for a book like this when it was during the times when like TED Talks were really popular, and for a long time TED Talks were the only like avenues where like talking about like self-help type topics in psychology were kind of really popular. So I remember when Brene Brown talked about her like that vulnerability speech. I don't know if you remember that. Which like really spoke to me, and I was like looking for more content like that, but in book form, because Brene Brown is a white woman. She's also from the South. She's American. So a lot of her,
also like, under fire right now.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. Yeah, and because like for me, she talked about a lot about vulnerability and shame, and I thought it was really eye opening. But my problem with her always was that it was never in the context of kind of anybody else's life, and like through the context and like of the lens of culture. So for example, like shame to her can mean like very big situations, but like to the average Black or brown person, it can be like the trauma of coming home with like a bad grade, or like you know, choosing to like dress slightly differently, or like, you know, depending on your family situation. I think it's a lot more minuscule. It's a lot more under a microscope. So that was kind of always my difficulty with engaging with her content. And then this came along, and I thought this is a lot more inclusive. Still today's standard, obviously, like there's so many topics that have yet to be addressed that this book doesn't. But like goes to show Brene Brown now, if you've looked online, she's like released, I think it was like a blog or article or something that was definitely Zionist. And again, like goes to show like as a person who like she should know more than anybody, as someone who talks about, you know, social situations and psychology and the world, like for her to say that says a lot about, again, like perspective and who you are, and says a lot about if you're going to talk about these topics, right?
Yeah, really absolutely.
So yeah, that being said, this book is great. My only criticism is, like I was just sharing with Iman earlier, I feel like the front end and back end of this book are incredibly strong. Like most of her quotable stuff is right at the top, so you're just like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in. And then at the end, when she's talking about healing and stuff, and there's a spirituality piece is really cool. And other pieces, like the last 3 or 4 chapters are really great. Like gender dynamics are a thing too. The middle portion is it just for me sounds like when your professor tells you when you're writing an essay to really drive your thesis home.
Yeah.
And you're just saying kind of the few same sentences and a couple synonyms. So that I feel like I was like, okay, I get the point. Like I understand, but maybe that's just I felt more academic in the middle. But that was just kind of my initial takeaway from it.
No, I think I'm hitting that part that you're talking about because that's kind of why I stopped reading. Or at least that's why I slowed down and other things took priority, because I was like, literally, if you can, I don't know if you guys, well, whoever's listening to this over platforms that you can't see the video, so sorry, but as you can see, I have little stickies, and literally at the end of the chapter that I was reading, there was nothing to highlight in the last couple of pages, and I feel like I'm reaching that point where it's it was feeling a little bit repetitive, which. So I think I think your critique is valid, but I'm excited to get to the end, the piece that you're talking about, spirituality and healing. I think that's important, and I think it makes sense where she starts. And again, I think the way she the way she structured this book is really smart, because she starts off with childhood and love from the home and and I think she moves on to romantic love, and then she talks about she talks about a lot of pain in the beginning, so I feel like it's really nice for her to end with healing.
Yes.
And I guess that speaks to what you're saying. It's like a self-help book. I wasn't even thinking about that when I got it, but that makes sense. You want to come out of it not feeling bad about love. You want to feel hopeful about love, and that you can receive love in different ways.
I think self-help is just the category it gets fit into often. For me, this approach is almost philosophy, if you think about what she's talking about generally. But I think it also is because again, with how she opens it with a dedication to her current lover, meaning she has found a love that works for her. For her to end off is kind of her saying it's possible. It's her testament without directly saying it. That's what I really enjoy about her is she has a way of incorporating her story, but it's not so pedantic. She's look, I did it, here's exactly how I did it, I you can do it too. It's more she sprinkles in a little bit of her experience if it's relevant. Okay, great. But it doesn't feel like she's preachy, which is great. Okay, do we want to get into our quotes?
Let's do that. Okay, do you want to go first?
Yes, I want to begin by so when you know how TikTok knows what you're doing in every part of your life?
Yeah.
Way before I started rereading this, there is a TikTok I came across. It ended up actually being part of a section that was one of my more favorite sections for reading this. So I will, when this is edited, I'll put it on here. But I'll just show it to you if I can find it. I should have preloaded this. Because clearly we're not the only ones who are reading this right now, which is kind of crazy. So, okay, I'll put the audio.
Into this book. 149 pages into this book, Bell Hooks is going to hit you with the... Like many men, he wanted a woman to be just like his mama so that he did not have to do the work of growing up. It hurts my feelings because it's true, but I'm trying to think, what I necessarily want out of a partner is really just getting my back scratched multiple times a day, but at least once a day. Just scratching it for a long time. Which is a lot to ask because nobody wants to fucking do that. Mrs. Hooks, Belle, can you hook it up with a happy ending? Because this book is just making me sad.
So I really like the TikTok, but I think it's probably for a lot of people, no, for anybody reading it, it's a lot of kind of the quotes stick out to you, make you go, whoa. Yeah. You have that moment of putting down the book and staring at a wall kind of thing. Where she kind of feels like sometimes she's speaking directly at you. So that whole section where she's talking about kind of gender dynamics within relationships was really cool of her kind of addressing, like it's on in the chapter called Mutuality, which basically understands like how couples specifically fail to see each other as equals, and it becomes a power dynamic. And like a lot of it bleeds into like friendships too, and like what we consider that we owe each other, and how instead of practicing love in the way that she sees like as an everyday practice, as something you willingly do, a lot of us are looking for kind of like, if you don't meet me halfway,
transactional.
Yeah, exactly. So that quote,
which that's a whole other conversation. We could have a whole conversation about literally that girl
in every context, like in especially in like adult friendships, like because of like how less time we have with keeping up with people in our lives. Like how much you feel like that has to be that way, because like what are you getting out of it is kind of like the
and
thing.
Also I think that it's and sorry to interrupt your quote, but like I also think that it's kind of a trend now. Like I don't know if you like, whenever you come across I don't know, like sometimes you'll see TikToks, you'll see tweets, but it'll be like these opinion pieces about people being like, if they don't treat you like you would want your man to treat you, then like cut them off, or like if they don't do XYZ for you, then they're not your friend, so like you don't need them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like I think to an extent that is true. However, everybody is like, while you are a friend to someone, like while you are like a part of someone's life, everybody is living their individual lives, and their individual lives are impacted by so much that we don't see as a friend. Do you know what I mean? And so like, you know, I think, and even for me, like sometimes you get lost in your own mind. You're like, oh shoot, like I haven't heard from this person, like are they trying to tell me they don't want to be my friend anymore? Like, should I just like back away? But and then on the other end, like that person is going through something terrible, or their own mental health crisis or something, and then so you've made the decision that like, okay, they're not my friend anymore, but like they're over there going through their own thing. So I feel
that's when they need you the most.
That's when they need you the most, and I feel like the standard nowadays is like, okay, well, if you don't talk to me every day, if you don't do this for me every day, if you don't do that, like, then I'm better off.
Yeah.
When it's like, I think we need to be meeting each other with a little bit more compassion. And I don't know. I understand that people don't want to get taken advantage of, and that people don't want to get hurt. And also people don't want to waste their time, right? Because like maybe they have other friends who do more for them. But I think that it's okay to have different types of friendships. You might have a friend who can meet you 50-50, who you're able to give them like 50%, and they're able to give you 50%. But sometimes you might have to give a little bit more. And like, if you value that friendship, sometimes I think it's worth it. Like if you want to continue that friendship, then it's worth to take the extra step sometimes when they have taken a step back. Sometimes.
Exactly.
And so like, there's no blanket way of dealing with friendships. Like I feel like you can't just be like, oh, someone went through this and it sounds like my situation, so I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I don't think it works that way. And I think that we are so scared of getting hurt, and sorry to go on this tangent, we are so scared of getting hurt that we rather cut our losses than be vulnerable and have open communication and say to someone like, hey, you hurt me, because that's vulnerable, right? It opens up the chance to someone be like, oh, like I don't care if I hurt you, like I'm doing my own thing, like that's you're being too dramatic. Like it opens up for you to feel like a fool, like to feel ridiculed. So we will jump the gun, I think, for the most part. And so I think if you value a friendship, I think it's worth it to, even if that person like makes you feel silly, then that tells you, okay, then they're not my friend. But like, for you to jump the gun and then suddenly you find out like years down the line that this person was really upset and like they, you know,
exactly.
I think, I just don't think that's worth it.
I think that's why like this specific chapter spoke to me. Like I could literally quote the entire section. Like he picked like the funniest part of it essentially, but like it really addresses something I think that's like specifically like our generation's issue. Of not really understanding in a relationship, it really is more clear, but when it comes to friendships, that's where we all are like kind of across the board when it comes to like the rules per se. And when it comes to your point of like, when is it to a point where your friend isn't treating you right, where you can rightfully cut them off, to maybe we're just adults right now and are dealing with work, mental health, family, literally every other thing.
Yeah.
And that they just need time. And like we'll definitely circle back, and it's not a lost cause per se, and nothing's been wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's an issue that I think we all really have, and like there's like one of the beginning sentences in that chapter. It says much of the despair young people feel about love comes from their belief that they're doing everything right, like in quotations, or that they have done everything right and love is still not happening. Their efforts to love and be loved are just produce stress, strife, and perpetual discontent. And it goes back to Bell Hooks' earlier point of like, love just comes with that.
Yeah.
Like it comes with like being disappointed. It comes with potentially wanting more out of a friendship, out of a relationship, and it is a work in progress. And I think having the expectation of it being so black and white, like she's saying, like right and wrong, of like it should just be like filling out a form, like I completed this correctly, why isn't this perfect, kind of thing. That's when we're like setting ourselves up to feel bad, because that's an expectation pretty much no one can uphold, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes we have to check ourselves, right? Like, it's we are all human and we all make mistakes, and sometimes we have to think like, okay, specifically to friendships, we have to think, okay, like, you know, if they're a long-term friend especially, you know this person, right? Like, you know them intimately. Like, why is it that our first thought is that they want to harm you? Right? Like, why is it that our first thing is to think something bad of that person?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because, like, to assume bad of that person is, like, that means you didn't really think highly of them to begin with. So, if you don't think highly of a person, why are you their friend?
Yeah.
If you think highly of a person and you care for this person, why... Your first initial thought when, you know, something goes wrong, you know, whatever it may be, like, it shouldn't be like, oh, they don't want to be my friend, or they, you know, they want to hurt me, they don't think well of me, they don't, you know, any of that. Yeah. Any of that negative talk, of course, I mean, I think it comes from a place of, like, you know, anxiety, it comes from a place of self-doubt sometimes, but when your first thought is, like, bad about another person that you care for, you know, like, I think we have to check ourselves. Be like, why is that my first thought? Like, why am I thinking that they would do something like that to me when we are good friends?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I should be like, okay, so then what's wrong? Like, what's going on with that person? And I know that can be a lot because we are dealing with our own things, but I think that's where communication comes in. Yeah. And, like, literally being like, hey, that was a little weird. Yeah. Like, are you good? Yeah. Like, what's going on? Yeah. And if they tell you that they need some space, then that's it. And it doesn't necessarily reflect badly on you. It's just like they're going through something and, like, you need to see where you can meet them. Yeah.
It's definitely something I've been thinking about a lot. Like being maintaining friendships and even starting new ones as an adult is like a whole other ball game. And, like, for me personally, and I think even for you, like 95% of my life is like enjoying those friendships and like keeping my social life alive. So, like, I feel like it's just something that's topical, is on my mind, and that definitely spoke out to me. And then on the same topic, earlier in the book, the quote of her talking about kind of capitalism within this topic is a simple quote: "We may not have enough love, but we can always shop." Like, that is like it's like a dagger. But, like, it just really quickly reminds me of a story. I was in a psych class my first year of university, and I remember the prof kind of like she was like really, like, for 200 people in the class, she was very friendly with our class, like people who were there, and they were just talking about her outfit. She was a very, like, hippie woman, like she wore a lot of, like, kind of indie type clothes, like a very thrifty look, and she was talking about how, like, she, like, recently, like, tore one of her pants and she, like, sewed it up to fix it, and somebody in the class was like, oh, why did you, like, go buy it, like, just go buy a new one, like, probably took you so much time. Like, the conversation was around that, and she was the first person for me to connect how we operate in our real life with love and our relationships, because she was like, well, this is the problem, because, like, you know, when we talk about, like, no one is, you know, giving services to tailors, no one is giving their shoes to repairmen who can, like, fix them right back up. We don't have the time. It's costly. It actually is a lot cheaper to go buy a new pair of pants, and they're brand new. But isn't that how we treat people? Like, it's the idea of, like, couldn't you just get a new one?
That's
true.
Kind
of thing.
That's true.
So I had, like, a huge aha moment when she said that, and it, like, was the first time someone compared something like systemic
new word alert.
Well, she reads books. Like something that happens in real world in our like everyday behaviors to like how we approach people. It was like a big like, I was like, oh my god, yeah, like that is kind of how we like just get a new friend, start a new whatever. Like it's yeah, like how much of that is like fueled in our ability to just like through materials, like what is it, like retail therapy, like a lot of that is
and I think that's very relevant to today, especially when we're talking about the dating scene today and like how many apps there are to swipe through all these options.
It's
and
so
like
objective.
it's like a very, I know the abundance mindset is like a positive thing, but I think that also it can be a negative thing in terms of like dating or finding a romantic partner, because like you just see like that there's so many options.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh well, like this little, I don't like this little thing about someone, so like, oh, there's definitely someone better out there. And if you think that way about everyone, I feel like you're not giving people a fair chance. One.
Well, you're
minimizing people to like to nothing. You're minimizing them to like just this little thing on your screen. And it's like I think that honestly I think that dehumanizes people for real. And but also at the same time it's like I think there is such a thirst. Like there are people are so desperate to find love, and like this seems like the only avenue. So it's kind of like I don't even know if that would be a catch-22. Is that a catch-22? I don't know if I'm using the term right. Like you know what I mean? Like it's bad, but it's good. Anyways, but I don't know what the answer is because
well that I think that the problem is that acceptance of there is no quick fix is the hardest pill to swallow. Of like, you know, like you can put yourself out there, you can be willing and open to love, but it's not this, like she addresses the idea so many times, it's not something that just happens to you, right? It's not something that's just gonna fall in your lap. Like you have to be just as much of a working participant to work on yourself and to work on like, you know, bringing yourself into situations where you can find love. But like again, like it's that hard work of respecting other people, of taking your time, of like romantic relationships aren't everything. Like we just spent like a whole 20 minutes talking about how friendships are hard enough as is to kind of really navigate and like be healthy about. So yeah, anyways, those are
and there's research now for women specifically that our female friendships are actually more valuable to us than romantic relationships.
And
and so
didn't have to tell me that though.
No, they didn't have to tell me that 100%, because I think that we would suffer a lot more if we didn't have our female friendships. Like I think like I mean, I'm not putting this out there. Like, I'm still looking for love. But but I think I would be fine. You know what I mean? Like, if I didn't have a romantic partner. Like, if I live this life without a romantic partner, I think I'll be okay. But if I didn't have my friends, I think life would be a lot worse.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's like, I just can't imagine. I don't know. There's female friendships I, like, and this is kind of like what I like will sympathize with men for, one of few things, is like male friendships don't go into that kind of depth, from my understanding. Like there are exceptions, but like to imagine like not having the female friendships and how that has paved the way for me to like just become a better person, and like having that person ready to call without judgment, who knows exactly what you're going through because they're a lot like me, is like invaluable. Anyways.
Also, I mean, sorry, last thing before I go into my quote. I love women, okay? Like, we literally don't even have to know each other. And we're able to just click and, like, be in sisterhood. And I think that's beautiful. And so, yeah, I hope men have that. I don't know if they do.
Yeah.
But I hope they have that to some degree.
Yeah.
Because I honestly think men would be better.
Yeah.
If they had people holding them accountable.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
And they were able to feel like this real connection with their friends, and they're not just because you hear this a lot, right? You'll hear that like this man, he'll have really good friends, but he'll be really terrible, and his friends don't do anything about it,
which are not good friends.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a really common, like, if you know your friend is doing something, like, why aren't you reading them? Like, why aren't you checking them?
Yeah.
And, like, we would, like, I feel like, again, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, like, if I see if my friend's doing something wrong, I'll let them know. If they agree with me or not, that's up to them, but, like, you're gonna let them know.
Yeah.
But anyways, besides the point, let me tell my quote. So this is actually, and like Razia said, like, a lot of these lines in the beginning of the book are amazing. And this is like not even the first chapter. I think this is the introduction. Yeah. So it says this. I can't even read what page that is. It's just in the introduction. Okay. XXVII.
Roman numerals, bitch.
So it says, and it's especially hard to speak of love when what we have to say calls attention to the fact that lovelessness is more common than love. That many of us are not sure what we mean when we talk of love or how to express love. And I thought that was like, yeah, that really spoke to me, because I think that I think it speaks to the fact that we do not want to be taken for fools. Like, we don't want to feel embarrassed. We don't want to be doing too much, especially as women. I feel like there is like this, I don't know, there's like this stigma against being too eager to find a partner and then not finding it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to feel embarrassed for being like, I'm looking for someone, and then not find someone, right? Like the idea, and it's like, I mean, again, I never chase a man, but it's more like, it's okay to be open about the fact that you want love. Like, that's something that you do want. It's not like, there's no shame in that. Yeah. Whether you get, like, and again, whether you get it in a romantic way or not, you find love in your family, you find love with your friends. There's a lot of ways to find love. So, I thought that quote was really, really meaningful, and I think it's really true. And it's true to the fact that a lot of people don't know what love is. Yeah. Yeah. I
think her point in that quote too is just that, like, because we all don't have a consistent understanding of what love is, not a common shared definition like the one she proposes, like with like the 5 attributes, like respect, whatever, is why we have the problems we have. Yeah. Right? Because like another crazy quote in this is like when she says that love isn't care. That is crazy to me.
I saw, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, it makes you pull it all back.
And that is very, very, and like, yeah, it is very true. And that makes you check yourself again, right? Because it's like, just because you care for someone doesn't mean that you're showing them love. Yep. And like,
in all aspects
that makes you question everything, because then you're like, what is love?
Exactly. What is
love?
Yeah, like the idea of, like, you know, someone taking care of you when you're sick. Like, she talks about it in like a parental sense of like, love can be like, care is one aspect, is like of when they're caring for you, but if in every other aspect they're shaming you, they're making it impossible for you to kind of find yourself. There's several other ways, like, you know, parents can create a terrible dynamic between you and the rest of your family.
It's not true love.
That's not love if it doesn't encapsulate those 5 things. Like, that's not respectful, right? So, and that's one of
and then it goes back to how our parents were taught to love, and how they saw love in like their parents or older generations, and again it's generational trauma. I think it's something like a lot of children of immigrants go through, because like and I think that, again, and I've seen this before with like a lot of people who come online to talk about their experiences with their parents, why they don't speak to their parents anymore and things like that, why they had to cut them off. And they always, a lot of the times, they're always like, but I'll always love my mom, I will always love my dad. And it's like, there's this idea of like, you have to have an unconditional love, or like you have unconditional love for your parents, no matter what they do to you. And I mean, I can't speak to it, like, you know, but it's hard when there is someone who's harming you and like you still love them. Yeah, that's like a really hard position to be in, and you also feel like some responsibility towards loving them just because of your familial relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's why she makes, what I really like too, she makes a topic of like abusive relationships in any sense, right? Like across like the different relationships we have. It makes it a lot more approachable, because you're like, it makes it, puts it in perspective of like, I can understand, of like, it is just a completely confused love, where you are seeing like, where you're mixing the feeling of attachment of like, oh, this person did this for me, or they were here for me for this 1% of my life in time when I needed them. Let's forget all the other things in ways that they've not, practiced love properly. And here's why I stayed, you know what I'm kind of thing. Yeah. And yeah, parents are a perfect example. Friendships even too. Like it's, you can find yourself in a situation where you're like, well, I still have this feeling. It's like, okay, but what is that feeling attached to?
Right, exactly. Like, it's hard with parents, because of course, like, especially if it comes to the point where you are an adult and you are like recognizing all these things and you feel like you need to separate yourself from your parents, like that's a really, really hard decision to make, because I feel like all you can think about, like, you're a child, like, you remember as a child, like, your parents took care of you. And, like, also, I think that a lot of times that's what parents repeat to you, right? Like, I did this for you. I did everything for you. And, like, so you are my child. Like, you must do this for me. And I don't know, like, I don't know what the answer is there. I think it's contextual. I think it's different for everybody. But when it comes to friendships, I think that's very true. Like, where you think of, oh, this person... Like, if you, like, you know, you think, oh, this person was here for me in this part of my life, and then, but the rest of this time, they were, like, completely disrespectful to me. Yeah. Like, it's hard to, like, let go of that, but sometimes you have to, because if, like, that person has no regard for you, like, you at all.
Exactly. If you think a big picture.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side, I think also we need to, like, reflect on ourselves. Yeah. And, we sometimes hold people to higher standards because we did something for them. Exactly, yeah. And, like, you're thinking, oh, I did this person at this time. Like, I did this for them, and I was there for them. And, like, for them not to do the exact same for me. But, like, we have to recognize that people are in different parts of their lives. Yeah. And so, like, sometimes people don't have literally do not have the mental capacity.
Yeah. The hardest
physical capacity. And that doesn't mean that they don't care or love for you. It's just, it's a different time. But that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's also really hard to, like, look at yourself with that same lens and be like, well, how have I let this person down? How could I have been better? How could I have, like, completely removed myself from this situation? How could it goes on and on. Yeah. But I think that's the point of, like, learning to be better at, like, the practice of love, like, seeing it big picture and putting yourself in a situation where, like the thing with, I think, specifically for friendships, and, like, this is kind of, I'll wrap it off if in case you had another quote, but, like, it's, again, like, because, like, you kind of have to get lucky with a friend who has that same understanding, same expectation of friendship that you do, with whether, like, if that comes down to, like, frequency of communication, what you like to do to, like, hang out, how you keep up and how you feel appreciated. It's kind of in modern day, it's like, unless that's kind of implicitly implied, then you get along really well. It's kind of hard to sit down with someone, so, like, hey, nice to meet you, so what is your understanding of friendship, and how can you make me feel happy? Like, no, like, that doesn't happen. Like, a lot of we're unfortunately in a society where, like, that would be considered really way too formal, and like, just isn't something that happens. Would it help a lot? It probably would clear a lot of communication things. Like, it would be a really awkward conversation at the beginning, but, like, the rest of your, like, that might be a lifelong friendship. So
yeah, and I think that, like, again, and we can wrap after this, but I think, there's that quote where it's like, when you point a finger, there's three pointing back at you. And I think that, like, there's this trend going on in TikTok now where people are, like, showing the different ways people point. So, like, anyways, that's not the point. But it's like, if you go like, when, like, immigrant parents are like, and so there's no fingers pointing back. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that it's very, like, the moment you point your finger at someone and say, like, well, like, I did this for you, or, like, look at all, like, you did something wrong. They could probably say the same thing to you. Yeah. Because, again, we are all human, we all make mistakes, and, like, yes, like, I'm sure we've gone through life with long-term friends and things have been forgiven, but that doesn't mean people forget. Yeah. And so it's like, you can say, okay, you did this and this and this, but I'm sure that same person can be like, okay, well, what about this and this and this? And so, like, when you get to that point, I think people are just going to go back and forth about the ways they didn't feel like they were appreciated, or the ways that you may have wronged them and you didn't realize. And so I think we all need to do better at approaching our friendships with, like, empathy and compassion.
Yeah, and
forgiveness. But also, like, be real. Like, if something does upset you, like, talk about it. Because
hardest thing to do, but yeah,
it is the hardest thing to do, because you don't want to. Again, so, and I'm the same way. Like, I don't like confrontation. Okay, I'm good to just let it. I'm good. But, like, sometimes if it's going to be something that sticks with you, you do need to bring it up. Because if you don't bring it up and then bring it up years later, that's not fair on that person.
It also it shows itself in different ways.
Yeah, right? Like, you can resent people. Exactly. And then if it causes a bigger issue later on, it's not fair to blame the other person when they weren't aware, because we can't read each other's minds. Yep. And so we have to, it's hard, but we have to, like, be a little bit more open with one another, and have some grace, like, for one another. Yeah. take it day by day. Just take it day by day. But yeah.
That's our review. I think for the most part, both of us were saying we really liked it.
Yeah.
We'd love to know your thoughts and ideas. Like, again, this is a really popular book, so if you've already read it, please sound off in the comments or wherever you're listening to us. We are going to be hosting these book clubs monthly. That being said, it's Ramadan.
Yes.
Over the course of March and April.
Ramadan Mubarak.
In advance.
Yeah.
So, like, we won't be holding a book club over the course of March, maybe also April. So the best place and way to keep up with us is on our Instagram, Psychoholic Studios. That's where we post the new dates. That's where we post stories for picking our new book. So that's the best place to kind of keep up with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really excited about this next book club.
Yeah.
In our next episode, probably that's when we'll wrap up and tell you how that went. But yeah, is there anything else?
No, that was great. Good luck. All y'all trying to find love. We're rooting for you.
Text your girl best friend today.
Yeah, reach out, see how they're doing. You know, maybe that person you were thinking of that you wish you guys were still in contact. Reach out if it's not harmful for you.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm excited to finish this book.
Yeah. I'm like really almost there.
Yeah. And like Razia mentioned, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok.
I think we're 1 away from 100 subscribers on YouTube, just saying.
Oh, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to see our faces, that's how you can see it. And like sometimes we hold things up. And so you can see that too on our YouTube.
Sometimes we hold things up.
If you want more context, you know, sometimes you want to see our face or facial expressions or whatever it may be. But anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye.